The place of honor here.
Oh my
I'm
God.
gonna run up and get another chair. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Let's see here. Hey, you're looking good.
Well.
Start recording. Okay.
Can
I'm gonna
I-
ask you the easiest question of
Do
all.
I don't need to hold this.
No, you can
I
put
can
it down. But I'm gonna have you give us your name and spell your name
Sure.
and then your date of birth.
Sure. Oh, that too, huh? Do they honor 1890? No, okay. No, maybe not.
We want you to give your serial number too.
Yeah.
You remember that?
The what?
Your serial number?
Sure.
Oh wow.
Oh,
All
absolutely.
right. Well, we'll have you do your name first.
Okay, I'm Gordon Davis, Gordondavis.
What's your date of birth?
November 12th, 1922.
And you actually remember your serial number?
01683-417.
Not too bad. Not too
Yeah.
bad. So tell me about how did you get involved with the Army Air Forces?
Well, I always wanted to fly, and so I went down to a recruiting station they had in Portland in the old post office building and talked to them down there about getting into the aviation. In those days, it was the Aviation Cadet Program under the Army Air Corps. And I got all the data and what have you like that, and they told me I'd have to take a test and all those good things. And they kind of told me what it was about, and I realized that I was going to have to go to night school a little bit and cram up because I wasn't there. And so I did that. I went to night school and got enough information to where I could get in there. And then they ran up against another problem, the fact I was born in Canada. And when you go into the aviation cadet program, you're going to become an officer in the United States Army. Okay. Well, you got to be a citizen of the United States, and I couldn't prove it because my parents came from Canada and they came across the port of entry up in Montana, Coots Sweetgrass, Montana. Okay, and it burned down. And so they didn't have any records, and my folks were really in the country illegally at that time. They didn't have any citizenship papers. They originally were born in Utah. They were part of that Mormon contingent that went out of Utah up to Canada to make it like the Salt Lake Valley, okay? And they've dug irrigation and made, you know, nice farm country out of that up there, and that was their claim to fame. But it left me with being born in Canada and not really having any proof of my citizenship. So there was one guy at the recruiting station that was friendly, and he said, you really want to do this, don't you? And I said, yeah, I want to get in the cadet program. I don't just want to be drafted, you know. And so he said, do you know an immigration officer? I said, yeah, my folks are in touch with one now that they know what they have to do. And they said, go get him and see if he'll give you a letter or something. So I went down to a guy in Portland, I remember his name, Ray Noreen, who was the immigration officer in Portland. And I went down and bled all over him and told him my story. And he said, give me a couple of days and come back. And I came back and he had a letter declaring me a citizen. It was just a letter of declaration. And I took that down to the cadet enlistment thing and showed it to them, and they said, hey. And I took the test and I passed it, so I got in the cadet program.
What year was this?
I was 19 years old, just turned 19. The problem was I never finished high school. I only had 2 years of high school. My folks got divorced, and I ended up having to quit high school and go to work. So that was kind of against me, you know, passing that test. That's why I went to night school and crammed up and what have you like that. And
Now, had Pearl Harbor happened by this time?
yeah, Pearl Harbor happened in 41. This was in 42.
42.
Yep.
Got it. Now, were you living in the Portland area?
Yeah, lived in Portland. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's
I just
okay.
wanted-
No problem.
So, once you became a cadet, what happened after that?
Well, the way the cadet program worked in those days, they had a classification beginning that you went into, whether you were going to be a pilot, a bombardier, or a navigator. And you went through a series of what they called psychomotive tests. And they did all sorts of things on depth perception and coordination and eye-hand coordination and I can't tell you how many things we went through over a series of probably about 2 weeks of those tests, and then they classified you whether you were going to be a pilot or a bombardier or navigator. Somehow I ended up as a bombardier.
Now, was that disappointing? Did you want to
Well,
be a
yeah, I
pilot?
wanted to be a pilot. There's no, you know, everyone did, and that's why you were there, you know. But you know, after what we'd been through in pre-flight, it was all kind of modeled after West Point. Everything in the aviation cadet program was pretty much West Point style. I'll show you a deal I got on my class and what have you like that. And so we went through a pretty stiff, it was about 12 or 18 weeks, I can't remember, of pre-flight and physical conditioning and just kind of basic military and what have you like that. And then going through all these qualifying tests, you know, where we were going to be, and then eventually we came out and were assigned to a squadron, and then we continued with pre-flight for about another 6 weeks before they moved us out to Bombardier School, and I went to Victorville, California, out of Santa Ana, and that's the old George Air Force Base down there. You probably know it. And we went up there, and that's where they had the Bombardier School, and that was about 18 weeks, and I graduated in the class of 4316 in 43, and I went after we got out of there. It was pretty good training, and you had to have a CE, called a correction error or a circle error. You had to be under 200 feet cumulative error with your bombs, with your practice bombs. And so I qualified there and got that and what have you like that. So I graduated, and then they, after you get out of Bombardier School, they send you to OTU school. Well, we didn't really know what the hell we were doing. They were ready to graduate out of Bombardier School, so I went down on the line. I knew some of the old crew chiefs and what have you like that, and I said, how in the hell do you know what you're doing? They said, well, if you go to Salt Lake, you're going to be in heavies. You're going to be in 17s. If you go here, you're going to be in B-24s. If you go there, you're probably going to be in B-25s. I said, what do I want to be in? He says, do you like being cold? I said, no. Not that cold. He said, 30,000 feet, 6, 7, 8 hour missions. That's what 17s are all about. B-25s are medium bombardment, strategic 10 to 13,000 foot. I said, that sounds like what I want. So he said, you go to Greenville. He says, sign up for Greenville, South Carolina. So few of us knew what we were doing. We signed up for Greenville, and that's where we got crewed up. B-25s, you know, and then we were flying the old C's and D's. You know, those were the models that we had then.
What kind of condition were those in?
They're pretty good. They're not bad. You know, being stateside, they're pretty good airplanes. What have you like them?
Now, when you were in bombardier training, were you flying in ATs?
AT-11s.
So they're
AT-11s,
like a Beech 18
twin
with a
engine.
different nose.
Huh?
They're like a Beech 18 with a different nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, tell me what a typical training day would be as far as in bombardier school and
Well, it kind of depended. They kind of balance things out. One month you would have morning classes and afternoon flights, and then the next month you'd have morning flights and afternoon classes. And you switch back and forth.
what were you dropping as practice?
100 pound, these blue bombs. Maybe you've seen them. They're pretty true. They had enough weight in them and what have you like that, that their trajectory would fall pretty good, you know. And they had a flare on them, and so when they drop them, then you had a guy that wasn't on the site. There'd be two guys that would go up at a time, and the other guy would man the camera in the ass end of the AT-11 and shoot the bombs wherever they fell. And they had a flare in the tail. When they'd hit, they'd show where they hit.
And they just have a kind of a target out in the middle.
Yeah,
of
they
nowhere?
had targets all over hell, all over the Mojave. And they would tell you which range you were going to, where your target was, and what have you like that. And you would fly to that target. And then they would hit an IP and turn, and pretty much the same routine, come in on it. The only thing they did is they gave you a pretty long bomb run, you know, and so I wasn't even acquainted with short bomb runs at that time. You'd take these long bomb runs, cage and uncage a couple of times, and synchronize that bomb sight right until those crosshairs would just hang on the target. They're painted on it, you know, and at least that's the way mine were. And I had a pretty good CE. I was doing well.
Now the papers used to say, you know, all the PR used to say with the Norden bomb sight, you can drop a bomb in a pickle barrel from 30,000 feet.
Yeah, you could. Pretty good. When I first got there, the bomb sight was still pretty secret. We used to have to go check it out of a vault. It had a guard. He'd walk you to the airplane and you'd button it in the aircraft. And then when you came down, you'd take it back, check it back in, what have you like that. But that, they discontinued that in about a couple of months. And they figured enough had been shot down. The Germans knew more about the Norden than we did. And so they lifted that restriction, and the bomb sights were in the airplane when we'd get there. And so we would go to class, and the class was a lot of hydraulics, a lot of aircraft identification, Morse code, God.
Now, when did you know that you were going to be sent overseas?
Oh, that was given.
It was given?
We all knew we were going overseas.
When did your training stop and you were actually assigned to a combat unit?
When I got to Greenville, South Carolina, they crew you up. And you go into kind of a holding squadron. And then I don't know what they do, I guess flip coins or something. And I ended up with a pilot out of Kansas City named Lee Cooley. Hell of a piano player. Guy could knock him dead on the piano. We had a lot of fun. And he was a great pilot and a co-pilot, and there were just three of us on the aircraft. We picked up a new aircraft in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we flew that down through Puerto Rico, Borinquen Field in Puerto Rico, Dutch Guiana in South America, Belém, Brazil, on down to Natal, Brazil, which is that point of South America that sticks out the furthest east, closest to Ascension Island. And Ascension Island is, if you know anything about it, it's just a little island out there in the middle of the Pacific. It's 10 miles by 20 miles big. So you have to fly that. So you can't, we were so limited on fuel. We had belly tanks, Bombay tanks, that we had in the aircraft at that time. So we had that kind of range that we could make it. But you can't fly the radio compass because you'll fly the Great Circle course. You understand a little bit about navigation, you know that that's a long way. So you have to cut that arc and fly. And so we would get all the information, and they had a drift meter on the airplane. You could read the drift off the waves if you know how. And we'd find out what that drift was, and then we'd cut across that arc, and we flew into Ascension.
So did you have a crew of 6 at the time?
No, 3.
Just 3?
Just 3. Just pilot, co-pilot, and me.
Had you named your airplane?
No, we hadn't. No, we were...
Did the co-pilot do the navigating?
No, I did.
You did it?
Yeah. Yeah, I took it. When you're in OTU, they put me through a quick course of navigation. So I got Bombardier Navigator rating, because B-25 didn't have room for all those people, you know, so the Bombardier became double-edged. And so we flew into Ascension, right, and they told us when you fly in there, you radio in, tell them you're on the final, and they come out and they shoot shotguns off and scare these wide-awake birds. You understand what I'm talking about? There's all these goddamn birds that congregate on the island, and they congregate at the end of the runway. Well, we took one through the windshield on the co-pilot side, and I was standing right up in between the pilot and co-pilot. We had bird feathers and crap all over us. But we got down. Cooley was pretty cool. He got the airplane down, and we landed, taxied in, and the crew chief come out and went, "Oh, Jesus Christ," you know. I don't have that. He didn't have the windshield. So we had to sit on Ascension for a week while they flew a new windshield in from Kansas City, where they were made. So they flew us in a new windshield and got it in, and then we picked up out of there and flew into Dakar.
What'd you do for a week?
Toured the island.
Chase
About
birds around?
10 times. I went around that. We knew everybody on that island. We drank the club dry. Well, not quite. We had a good time.
So Dakar.
Huh?
So you went to Dakar after
Went to
that?
Dakar, yeah. French West Africa. That's a revelation. And all these natives are down standing around the runway, and you begin to understand what the other part of the world is about. You know, all these people with elephantiasis and all imaginable sort of things, and you go, whoa, bad news. But we just refueled there, and then we went up to Marrakech, Casablanca, that area, refueled. We jumped across to Tlergma in Tunisia, which was Free French air base at that time. And so we were there, and it was at that time, I think you and I talked about this, Bill, Vesuvius erupted, and that's where our squadron was, and we were to go in there, but it erupted and destroyed most of the aircraft in 340th Bomb Group, to which we were assigned. So we had to stay in Tlergma again. So we had another They're almost a week, I think, waiting while they moved to Corsica. Well, there was another base over there that they modified that base. It was a fighter base, and they extended the runways and worked it all out. So then they dumped us in there, the 340th, 4 squadrons, 486th, 87th, 88th, 89th, 4 squadrons in the 340th Bomb Group. And they put down steel matting on the runway and what have you like that, because we were a little heavier than the fighters that were in there. And so we got to open up a new air base, pitch tents all over the side of a hill, and start from scratch.
So describe what your first mission was like.
They just told me to watch the lead ship, and when it opened its bomb bays, he had a toggle switch. And when his bombs cleared the bomb bay, toggle, you know. And so you learn a lot just sitting out there on the wing, and I toggled for a fair number of missions. And then they came down and asked me if I'd like to fly lead, and I said, yeah, sure. And they said, well, it means you got to practice, you know. So they crewed me up with a guy there, pretty good pilot. And by then I got separated from Cooley. He was going with someone else, and I was with a guy by the name of Kerry Middlecoff, good pilot. And so we practiced like hell and went into the lead, and I think the first mission I was on, I threw my bombs out about 2,000 foot. And they're looking at me like I'm, you know, what the hell happened? And I said, I'll be goddamned if I know. I looked at me like I was on it. And they said, Well, they found out it was Kerry, my pilot. He was so scared, he was checking rudder pedals all the way from the IP on in. He never took one correction out of that PDI, you know. And then they said, whoa, Kerry, can't do that. So they crewed me up with another guy, and then matter of fact, they gave me my pick, and I picked an old crop duster pilot out of Kansas, and he was fabulous. And he and I were a great team. You know, we practiced a lot, and we got so the guys were saying, I want to fly with you, I want to fly with you. So that was a good feeling, you know. And we flew a lot of missions, and were very good. We had some months where we were 100% on target, you know, and that we got some write-ups. I'll show you. They sent a thing home to the Portland Oregonian to put in the paper, you know. Yeah, it was. You're 19 years old and just having a ball.
So you probably had the best seat in the house up there in the front.
Damn right.
Did you take off in the nose?
No, they didn't want you to do that, you know, just in case. But I would hit that nose just about the time we were forming up. You take off and then you do a form up, you do a big circle over the plane, you come back over the field in formation, what have you. And by the time we'd hit that form up, I was up in the nose. You know, that was...
Did you ever ponder what it would take to bail out of that airplane as far as the
many
tunnel?
times. Yeah, we didn't have seat packs. We had chest packs, you know, because I had to crawl up through that little... You been up that crawlway? Well, you know what it is. So I'd leave my chute back in the center section and just wear my harness, because I knew if I was going to bail out, I'd have to come back and hit the hatch, you know, there. So I thought, and you have to hook that up, you know.
What kind of altitudes would you fly?
On target?
Yeah.
Anywhere from about 10 10.5 to 12.5, 13,000.
Were you using oxygen, or did you go up to 13?
You could, you know, I can't remember we did.
What was a typical bomb load?
About 4,000 pounds, sometimes 3, depends upon how deep you were going, you know, because sometimes you'd need the extra weight for fuel.
Was it commonly 500-pound bombs?
But some thousands. We'd get they'd load up 3 or 4 1,000-pound bombs, and you'd get 8 500s or 6, whatever it was.
Tell me about what typical targets were. What were the selection of targets that you were going after?
For the most part, they'd be rail bridges. You know, the Jerry's were running their supplies down through the Brenner Pass into the Po Valley, and then they'd run all over the Po Valley, Florence, Fianza, Bologna, all the way down to Rome, Naples, when we were down that far. And they had one other route that they'd go around and come through the Udine, about by Venice. And there were some lines up there that we used to go after. And then there was another line that was not used very much, but we did go after it once. It came through the Alps, up above Lake Como, Milano, up in there. And but we went after ammo dumps, fuel dumps, rail bridges, that kind of stuff.
What was your average time from takeoff to landing? What was a typical mission?
3 to 4 hours.
Did you have fighter escorts, or were you on your own?
Oh yeah. Yeah, early on, you know, the fighters were there, and they would jump you. And but we had British. We were supporting the British 8th principally, our particular group. So we had Spitfires. Good, very good, great cover, and love those guys. Yeah. And then a little later on, then we picked up some P-47s and some 51s, you know, American. But it was great when we had the British. They were the best, no question.
Would usually all 4 squadrons go after the same target?
Yeah, pretty much.
This is approximately 50 airplanes? Or
Well,
48?
sometimes we'd put up 2 boxes, which was 12 out of our squadron, so there'd be 48 aircraft out of the 4. Sometimes we'd put up 18 out of our squadron, so there'd be, 72?
What was the formation like? How did they... Can you describe the formation and what that did as far as your bomb drop pattern?
Yeah, it was pretty much 6 aircraft in a box, flying tight formation, you know, so that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 aircraft, and they would tuck it in pretty tight, and particularly over the target, so that you were all dropping off of that lead ship. And so every box had a lead bombardier, you know, or not a lead bombardier, but a bombardier. And then you'd alternate, squadrons would alternate taking the group lead, and then the 86 would lead one day, and then the 87th and 88, 89. So you'd rotate through that. So we'd fly squadron lead most of the time, and then fly group lead every 4th.
Did you
mission.
guys encounter German airplanes, German fighters?
Do what?
Did you guys encounter German fighters?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they had quite a few fields all over the Po Valley up there when we first started, and they would scramble and come up, and you know, the British would take them on, you know.
Now tell me what the flak was like.
Pretty good. I had to give a lot of credit to the, all of us lead bombardiers would get together and critique, how to read the flak and how to determine how to fly through it, what have you like that. And the 88s were in batteries of 4. And there'd be a battery here and a battery there. So you'd have maybe 4 batteries, around a given strategic target, close to it anyway. The Jerry's knew what you were going to come after, and they would put their guns in accordingly. And if you took too long a bomb run, my bomb runs were on an average 30 to 40 seconds. And I would talk the pilot from the IP in doing evasive action, and if you got a burst of flak, you'd fly into it because they weren't going to shoot there again. So you would hopscotch in on that flak, and I would talk the pilot all the way in, and then I'd roll him out on the target, and I'd roll him out so that he was already crabbed into the wind, so I had my course killed. When I'd roll him out, I could look right over the top of the sight and down, and I'd roll him out, and I'd say, give me a little left, Bob. Just a little more left, a little left. Good, hold it right there, good, hold. Give me a level, boom, in that sight. And by then I had my course killed, and then we would work, like I said, on the rate knob. And you'd kill that, and then the indices, I'd keep checking them to see where I were and see how long I had before. And when they'd get up so close, open the bomb base, so that as soon as I opened them, then all the other guys behind me would open their bomb bays and toggle off of me, So.
Did you get photographs of?
Yeah, I believe it was the number 4 ship, the guy flying the second B down below. That aircraft usually carried a camera, and he would take pictures of the bombs, the target. And then there were pictures all the way back so that I got some photos of what we'd end up with. Only we'd end up with big photos like this. Mine are just little. But we'd get pretty good photos. We'd know what damage we'd done, and then the recon would go in and see what kind of damage we'd done after the smoke had cleared. Because sometimes it was tricky. You'd go in there and, boy, it looked like you just nailed that bridge. And you'd go in there and the son of a bitch was still standing. And you go, what the hell? We hit that thing right on the nose and it's still there. Yeah, and you're going back tomorrow. oh, no thanks, I can remember I always used to talk about Ferrara. There was a railroad bridge in the middle of the Po Valley called Ferrara. And that son of a bitch was hard to knock down. We went back on that thing about 5 or 6 times. And we'd go down to briefing, and they'd have that curtain up there in the briefing room, and then they'd pull that curtain, and you'd say, Ferrara, son of a bitch. We're going back there again? Because by then, those Jerrys knew exactly what you had to do, where you were coming from, what your angle was going to be. And boy, those 88s were itching to get on you, But you had to get the target. So we did everything we could. We'd get them eventually.
How many missions did you do?
Huh?
How many missions did you do?
75.
And now, tell me about your last mission. What did you do after your last mission?
Got very drunk. No, when I first got over there, we were only supposed to fly 50. When I got about 25 or 30 missions, they raised it to 60. So we had to fly 60 missions. So after a little bit, they raised it to 65. So I thought, well, screw this, you know, I'll fly 70. So I flew 70, and then the squadron ops officer was a real good friend of mine. We had a squadron basketball team that was pretty good. And his young fellow out of Terre Haute, Indiana, Black John Moyer, and my tent mate was a lead bombardier, and he got killed. I think when Moyer had 65 missions, I think, and so he wanted to fly 5 more. So I had 70, and I was sitting there, and we went over to the club and hoisted a few, and he was moaning and saying, "God damn, I don't want to go back out on the wing. What am I going to do?" And after a few more drinks, I said, "I'll fly you out, you son of a gun." And so I flew him out. And that's how I got 75. And those were, even though those missions were maybe a little easier because it was winding down toward the end, and we didn't get quite as much flak, a little bit, they were still pretty hairy. And when you're flirting with, with you shouldn't be doing what you shouldn't be doing, those missions were hairy, And
What type of losses did you have in your squadron? Losses. What type of losses did you have in your squadron?
I couldn't hear you.
Losses, like how many of your airplanes were shot down?
Oh, gee. I don't know that we kept any percentage or anything like that, but we'd lose 3, 4, 5, 6 aircraft over a hot target. Yeah. We went into southern France. When they did the invasion, northern France, we were trying to screw the Jerry's up, and we flew a lot of missions into southern France. And there was one particular target in there called Avignon. It was a hot target. And we go in there, we lost quite a few in there. I can remember maybe lost 7 or 8, 9 aircraft in there on that target. We weren't prepared for it. Our intelligence wasn't as good. We didn't have as good of photos. We didn't know what the hell we were getting into, and we got into a hot spot. Got the shit shot out of us. And we lost quite a few. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you flown in 25 since?
I flew home. No, by golly, I haven't. Come to think of it, I haven't. When I came home, I went into a reserve squadron after I came home from college. I went into a reserve squadron out at the Portland Air Base, and we were in an F-89 Scorpion jet, and that was fun. That has an E5 Hughes computer in it for intercept, and I checked out on that. That was fun. That was fun.
Well, very good. Is there things we missed? Is there questions you guys would like to ask?
I'd like to ask, Gordon, is there a particular mission that you recall because of damage or success? Maybe you got a fighter with the nose gun?
Oh, I think I only pulled that thing down a couple of times, when the fighters got in there pretty tight. I took a couple of bursts at them, but I was so busy trying to get stuff in that sight that I didn't really pay that much attention. I think that was when we came off the target, we got hit, and that's when I took a couple of shots at them.
Were you ever in an area aircraft that took damage? Were you in an aircraft that took damage? You were coming in?
Oh yeah, yeah. We bellied in once. Our hydraulics got shot out. We couldn't get our wheels down, so we bellied in. That's always kind of an experience because you don't know whether you're going to catch fire or not. But didn't have that much fuel aboard coming home, so it really wasn't that bad. And then one time we lost our brakes and went off the end of the runway into the trees and down in a creek and whatever. But we had picked up a bunch of holes. I got one time, just about the time I closed the bomb bay doors and we started to do evasive action away from the target, a piece of flak came in on the right-hand side, right where that little seat I was telling you about was, right there. It came in on that side. It left a hole about that big. And it went out the other side and left a hole about that big. You know, if it had been 30 seconds later, I'd have been sitting in that seat.
Was that your closest call?
That was my closest call. I heard that song. It sounded like a gunshot. It was whop, and it just went through and, whoa, hey, how about that? And, but you're
How do you feel about this?
you're young and foolish, and you just say,
This plane, this brought you-
not me.
How do you feel about this plane? This plane brought you home 75 times. Do you have an attraction or a connection to
Hey,
this
that aircraft, I'll show you some pictures. Aircraft that they flew back from the Brenner Pass. Unbelievable. You don't know how that pilot flew that aircraft. He had to be standing on the rudders and throttles all the way home. He limping all the way, and then he had to come down on the deck, to get even a little, because at that altitude your control is not as good as it is down at 1,000 foot, or 500 foot. So you have to come down on the deck and you're getting a little closer to reality down there too.
Talked
Yeah.
last night about the fighters coming through the formation. Remember how, last night you talked about the fighters coming through the formation?
Oh yeah, yeah. Those Jerrys were most of them pretty good pilots, but they would try to bust up your formation. So when they'd hit you, they'd come down and you'd have a box here and a box here, and they'd come down between the boxes. Just shoo, and you go, "Whoa, what the hell was that?" There's a fighter, and then shoo, there'd be a Spitfire coming after. So you got to see some pretty good dogfights out there. If you had time off the target, but going in on the target, no time. You were busy every second, and I particularly, I'm that kind of an acorn. I want to be right on it, so we practiced a lot, and we hit a lot of targets. We had a lot of fun. Yeah.
What about the life on the ground? You talked about your own crew and then being with the British guys that were on the ground too. So.
Oh yeah, we used to visit. We used to visit with the British because they were just pretty close to us, So we'd have a stand down on the weather or what have you like that. Why a bunch of us would say, "Hey, let's go down and see our buddies." All right. Four of us would commandeer a Jeep and we'd run down there and drink with them, but they would, you'd sitting there with these guys, and you'd say, "Oh, how many missions you got?" And he'd say, "Missions? I say, yeah, how many missions you got? Well, let's see. 39 I was here, and 40 I was there, 41 I was here, 42 I came down to North Africa. I don't really know how many missions I got. I've been doing this for 4 years, you know. You begin to realize what some of those British guys were. You know, they were not only good, but they were seasoned, and they were the best. Yeah, I'm really glad we had them, you know, when we did. Yeah, they took care of the fighters. I can't say that fighters ever knocked down any of our aircraft. They might have got one or two tail enders, but not many, because those British boys were on them.
So what about the life in the base between missions, not just in your own squadron and your own?
Oh, well, we lived in tents, you know, and they'd we would go out and commandeer wood and what have you like that to put floors in the tents, because it rained quite a bit and the water would run through them, so we did ditch around them and what have you like that. When we first hit Corsica, why the Jerrys were anxious to kind of knock us off, so the Stukas came in and hit us a couple times, and we had one of the first orders of business when we pitched our tents was the squadron ops officer said, and dig a slit trench, and dig a slit trench, and dig it deep. So we all did, you know, and so when those Stukas come, why, out of the tent into the slit trench. And
Do they all have their sirens on them?
yeah, yeah, you could hear them. Yeah, those Stukas, yeah, they'll howl like a son of a bitch. Yeah, you bet. And they did a lot of damage. They knew where we were, and they weren't so much after the squadron area, although we got a few little hits, but they were after the fuel and the ammo dump and down the airfield. They came close, but we still put up airplanes the next day. Yeah.
Well, very good. I can see my battery's blinking red, so I think we're nearing our end.
Here, I'll show you
Yeah, I'd like
a
to
couple
see some
pictures of.
I'm just going to let this run, and it might run out, but that's fine.
I just want you to know what a good-looking guy I was then.
That's great. I'm going to put it right here, too.
That's what I looked like when I came home. So I was still all right.
I'd say so.
There's some of the aircraft.
Now, is this from your squadron?
Yep.
So that's a shot up right wing of a B-25.
Yep.
Wow. That's an amazing picture. I think I might have used that picture in one of my books at one time.
This is just airplanes coming back, and we would fly down over the fields, you know, and then we'd peel off and go up into the landing pattern, and that was the way we did it.
There you go.
There, if you look close, you can see down there where the bombs are hitting that
Yep.
bridge.
That's the target. Right along the coastline, huh?
Yeah. There's another one.
So that's a railroad crossing at a river, huh?
Yeah, I think that's about the same thing.
It's amazing to see all the bomb craters all around.
Yeah. There's the thing they send home when we were,
100% accuracy.
yeah, just so you know, this DFC tells the lead bombardier in 75 missions, so,
Wow.
you know, I'm not giving you any horse hockey.
I don't know. Bill's brought some people in before that have claimed this and that, you know.
Yeah, no,
That's why he wanted proof.
Yeah, some guys say
He's
they
run into
found
a couple of those
Bigfoot.
people.
no,
As
you
a
know,
baseball guy, you run into guys that say they played in the big leagues all the time.
no, I ended up with the DFC and the Air Medal with 8 Oak Leaf clusters, presidential citation, and then all the other good conduct medals and
Wow.
shit, you know. This is my little
Ah,
aircraft I built at home.
nice. Is that 148 scale?
That's a B-25J, and it's still on my bookshelf.
I like it.
Ah,
That's great.
no. Well, I'll show you that one later.
Okay.
This is pretty good. That's my crew.
Seven, huh?
Yeah, there was a lead. I was flying group lead that day. That's the navigator.
Okay.
That's Angelo Adams. We kept in touch after the war. He flew navigator for me. When they fly group lead, they gave you a navigator because they wanted to make sure you no fuck ups. You wanted to make sure that, you know, that you hit the IP right on the button, and as soon as they hit the IP, Angelo would say goodbye. And he'd go back in where the armor plating was a little heavier, and he'd leave me up there in the nose all alone. Well, he was all right.
That's you on the right in that picture.
Yeah, somewhere there. Yeah, where am I? Right there in the middle.
Oh, you're in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, with the baseball.
Got it.
That's me.
Yeah,
Well, these
mine
are
looks
just
like Bob Hope,
Yeah, kind of does.
doesn't he?
these are just some
That could be
photos
Bob
of
Hope.
It could be, yeah.
aircraft that I
Doubt it.
But
took out the
Shot
window.
these?
Yeah, I was going to show you. Oh,
Look at
okay.
that.
Here's another aircraft.
One whole vertical's torn off.
Yeah,
Huh?
blew that vertical stabilizer right off. How he flew that goddamn thing back?
Jeez.
This is a guy was in our squadron, and he got wounded on that flight in the shoulder. Merkel, guy by the name of Merkel, and that's our squadron mess shack that we built in that on Corsica in that tented area. Then we hired a bunch of the local guys, and they showed us how to make those brick out of mud and clay and crap and straw. And they know how to do it, and they helped us build this thing. And then we commandeered enough wood, took that, and then I put a floor in my tent, and put a fireplace in there, and oh, it was very nice.
Overall, how long were you overseas from when you
About
arrived?
18 months.
Just 18 months?
Yeah. About 18 months. This is the inside of our club. I'm proud of it because I worked like a son of a bitch on it. I like it. That's me flying co-pilot on the way home. I flew right seat more than anything else. You know, I just one flight. No, this is just the aircraft all over hell. There's just a bunch of crap there. But I have to tell you, I had one little Jewish boy in my squadron. I love that son of a gun. He was absolutely one of the funniest guys I ever met. And we lost him after a while, but He wrote this poem. I got to read it to you just the way he put it together. And Milton Frankl was his name. He says, so I'm writing you, Jake, and telling you about bombing mission I lately flew. So I'm first time up and feeling swell, but later on I'm not so well. The size of these bombs you should really see. 1,000 pounds and we got 3. While back in the States, you already know we're using this only for show. So hopping okay, we're off the ground at 5,000 feet, I'm safe and sound. The Nazi fellows not scaring me, I show them bombing, wait and see. So we're over Italy, 10,000 foot high, zooming along so safe in the sky. So I'm looking around and reading the map, just like in training, it's easy as that. Pretty soon over phone, hearing pilots say, you calling flak, what time, which way? So I'm laughing to self, he's no scaring me, we're up here so high they can hardly see. By checking our map, I'm seeing the run. Nothing to combat, just lots of fun. But look down the target, plain as day, so I'm looking lead ship to open Bombay. But wait, what's that? Black smoke all around. This goddamn plane, she's up, she's down, it's going this way, that way, flying like mad. I'm thinking by now things are looking bad. Doors open, doors closed, what the hell's going on? I'm telling you, Jake, you should see that run. Doors open and bombs falling out like rain. In 15 minutes, I'm doing the same. All of a sudden, gives tinkle of glass, is flying around, keeping time with my ass. Holy smoke, I'm thinking, this is not the end of me. What a fine goddamn fellow I used to be. Back on the ground, at last I'm safe and sound, knees full of water, no color in face. Several good boys helped me out of plane. I'm telling them, Jake, I'm never the same. Interrogation gives whiskey, lots of reports. I'm getting in line, getting 2 snorts. What you see, they're asking, slapping him back. So what I say, nothing else, just flak. Anyway, I love the guy. Yeah. This is the class that I was in.
Yeah.
And this is the Victorville. That's
There you
the
go.
AT-11. And there's all our TAC officers, whatever you like that. Pretty good guys. That was our guy. And then this is the kind of the guys, and you can see it's spit and polish boy, and you stood a Saturday morning inspection that was like this white glove, you know, and they'd come in and do your barracks, and boy, it better be right. And there's chow line. I never saw food like that in my life, particularly me. I come from a very poor family, to say the least, and I'd never seen food like that, because I was up eating twice. That's what the classrooms would look like. And that's what I looked like, bewildered.
Deer in the headlights.
Drop a pencil and you lose a year. This is the flight line. In the ready room, calculating your errors and doing all the stuff you do, and it's just the story of our guys.
There you are.
There's all these guys, all graduating bombardiers, all fresh ass, gonna be second lieutenants. Anyway.
Huh. That's great.
Anyway, that's it. That's
Well, we appreciate you coming by.
well, I tell you, it's fun. Yep.
I'm going to hit the stop button here.
The rest was pretty much up to me. You know, and it is that. If I could talk him into the target, I roll him out, you know, like see over there in the corner. Right. Over here. You know, and then I would look at the sight, see where my crosshairs were, see, I'd have the grease already in. So then I'd say,
No, I got about 2 minutes of data card and about 2 minutes of battery left, so I think we're in pretty good shape.
because, you know, I've stated here on land that that's a, that's all